In the year 2049 a catastrophic event known as Black December plunged the world into turmoil. Billions of people all over the globe were eliminated, and the concept of nations was wiped out of existence. The people who survived slowly gathered into smaller microstates called tribes. As time passed on, these tribes began forming their own way of governance and separate cultural identities. The scene shifts to the year 2071, where three siblings from the Origins tribe, eldest Keano, middle child Liv, and the youngest Elja are tracking game in the rugged wilderness of the continent of Europa. They are quietly following their prey when suddenly a strange aircraft roars overhead and crashes in the distance. The siblings are totally baffled as they have never seen an aircraft before. While Keano and Elja want to go forward and investigate the crash site, Liv has a different plan. She insists that they should return to their village to inform the tribal elders first. Meanwhile, at the Crow tribe's base, a high-ranking official named Varvara goes to see their leader, Captain Evar. She informs him that one of her lead squads has successfully shot down an Atlantean hover jet. Unfortunately for them, it has crashed in the southern part of the forest, which falls near the territory of another tribe called the Crimson Tribe. Nonetheless, Evar desperately wants the Atlantean technology, which he believes is the key to rule the entire continent. He gives Varvara all the resources and orders her to locate the aircraft. Evar is fully aware that this could spark a war with the Crimsons, but he simply doesn't care. In the meantime, the siblings meet up with their dad, Jakob, who also happens to be the leader of the Origins. They tell him everything that they saw during their hunt earlier. Jakob listens carefully but forbids them from searching for the plane. He points out that the Origins tribe has survived by staying out of the affairs of outsiders. Later that night, a grand party is thrown to celebrate Elja's initiation ceremony into the tribe. Liv uses this opportunity to talk to Jakob about the incident that she saw earlier that day. The father-daughter duo have an intense conversation, and she eventually manages to convince him that they should check the whereabouts of the plane. The next day, Jakob wakes up his children very early in the morning and tells them to gear up. Then, the three siblings and a seasoned tribes member named Mark head towards the crash site. It doesn't take them long to find the plane, but they notice that the pilot is gone. Moreover, the entire body of the aircraft is littered with bullet marks. The kids think that the plane came from the old world, but the adults quickly correct them. None of the elders have ever seen an advanced aircraft like this before. While everyone is busy looking around the wreckage, Elja strays slightly away. He soon comes across a strange black cube, but he keeps it for himself instead of handing it to his dad. Jakob and Mark, on the other hand, decide they'll investigate the site on their own and send everyone else back to the village. However, Elja quietly splits from the group and goes to his secret hideout, which is an abandoned hall. It is revealed that he has forged quite a collection of treasures from the old world, like a keyboard, an iPhone, and a PlayStation. He places the cube among them, but is startled by the sudden sound of coughing. He turns around only to discover that the Atlantean pilot is hiding in one corner of the hall. Despite being severely wounded, the pilot keeps talking about the cube and explains how important it is to his people. Elja is concerned for the stranger's life and wants to go back to the village for medicine. The youngster promises to be back soon, and upon hearing this, the pilot asks Elja to keep his presence a secret. After a while, Elja returns to the village, grabs a bunch of medical supplies, and hides the cube in a chest. Unfortunately, his siblings catch him red-handed and ask him to take them to the pilot. Once they reach the hideout, Liv takes a closer look at the pilot's wounds. She decides that they need to take him back to the village for proper care. The siblings then carry the pilot out, unaware that a crow named Grieta is following them. In the meantime, Jakob and Mark visit the nearby tribe of Little Praha, but nobody comes out to welcome them. They continue to look around only to discover that the whole tribe, along with several Crimson soldiers, have been massacred. One of these soldiers is still barely alive, and he explains they were killed by the crows, who are looking for the Atlantean pilot. Meanwhile, at the village hospital, the doctor says that she has done as much as she can, but the pilot has already lost a significant amount of blood. Once the pilot is all alone, Elja takes the cube to him, and the pilot explains it has a message about a dangerous threat coming from the east. He adds that it must be taken to the Atlantean Ark to warn his people. The cube mustn't fall into the wrong hands, and if Elja wants answers about the causes behind the end of the world, he must help. At that moment, Jakob and Mark come back to the village and warn everyone about the crows. Jakob wants the pilot to leave because he's a threat to the tribe. He also sends a man to pass a warning message to the Crimsons. Jakob then makes everyone grab their weapons to defend their territory. However, before they can proceed further, they hear a scream and soon discover Grieta has arrived with Varvara and an army of crows. Jakob tries to offer the pilot in exchange for peace, but Varvara responds by tossing the head of one of the villagers. Then the crows consume a special gas before attacking and forcing the Origins tribe to fight. As the village succumbs to death and destruction, Alger goes to see the pilot. The youngster sees that the stranger's wounds have gotten worse. Realizing he doesn't have much time left, the pilot programs the cube to respond only to Alge's eyes. The pilot asks the boy to take it to the Atlantean Ark before slowly fading away. Thankfully, Alge escapes with the cube and bumps into Keano, who tells him the tribe can't win, so he has to run away. Alge proceeds to escape through the forest while Keano fights the soldiers that try to follow his brother but is captured. On the other hand, Liv fights Grieta, but the latter stabs her and leaves her for dead near a stream. Jakob, who is fighting Varvara, gets distracted by this, and it gives Varvara the opportunity to knock him out. Moments later, Varvara gathers all the survivors to demand information on the cube and even kills one of the prisoners to try to make them talk. She suddenly notices a nervous-looking Keano and senses he might know something. Upon seeing this, Mark pretends to have some information so that he can take the attention away from Keano. However, when Varvara asks him what he knows, Mark blatantly insults her. An enraged Varvara wastes no time and kills Mark on the spot. She then turns to Keano again, but for some reason she has a change of heart and decides to take all the villagers as slaves. The crows leave with the villagers, and only Grieta stays behind to search for the cube. After a while, Liv wakes up and is devastated to discover that her tribe has been massacred. She is trying to process the carnage when she hears Grieta moving nearby. Liv quickly grabs her crossbow, hides behind a column, and waits for the right moment to shoot at her. Once she has injured her target, Liv jumps on Grieta and threatens her into talking. The latter explains the villagers were taken to Bradock, an impenetrable fortress belonging to the crows. Grieta also asks Liv to finish her, but at that moment, Crimson soldiers arrive at the spot. They are led by a young soldier named David, who promises they're here to help. But before anyone can say anything, another Crimson soldier knocks Liv out. On the other hand, Alge takes a break to try to activate the cube, but the mysterious artifact doesn't seem to be working. He makes his way to Little Praha and finds a mysterious truck outside. The youngster decides to search a nearby building for tools, but he quickly discovers that he isn't alone. Fearing for his life, Alge tries to hide, but a tall, rough-looking man named Moses finds him anyway. The man explains he collects and repairs electronics from the old world. He assures Alge that he is not here to kill him, and eventually the youngster shows him the cube. Moses confirms he can fix it and sends the boy to grab some tools. But when Alge comes back, Moses has left with the cube. Alge runs out of the building to try to follow the truck which was parked outside, but he is suddenly attacked by a crow who threatens the youngster for the whereabouts of the cube. Fortunately, Moses comes back at this crucial moment and shoots the crow. He then tells Alge to get in the truck, and they escape together right before more crows show up. Moses apologizes for his betrayal and gives Alge the cube back. He also offers the youngster a deal. He'll take Alge to someone who can actually repair the cube. Once that is done, they'll sell it and split the reward 50-50 between them. Alge refuses the deal and leaves the truck, but Moses keeps following him. He points out that Alge doesn't know where to go, not to mention the crows may catch him easily on foot. Seeing no other choice, Alge agrees to work with Moses. While the duo are traveling to their destination, Alge asks about the December blackout. Moses doesn't exactly know the cause for it, but he's sure the Atlanteans knew about it and decided to keep it to themselves. Now their technology is conveniently the only one that works in the new world. Elsewhere, Liv wakes up in a hospital in the Crimson Tribe and finds that her wounds have been taken care of. David explains they had to knock her out so she wouldn't learn of their location, but also assures that she's safe with them. When he asks about what had happened in their village, Liv tells him about the pilot and the plane but not about the cube. Nonetheless, David sends his men to look for any possible information around the crash site. When Liv expresses her wish to save her family, David tells her that they haven't found a way into Bradock City yet. Afterwards, another member named Sam shows her around the Crimson Stronghold, which lies at the border with the Crow territory. Crows are lethal killers, but they keep a strong sense of honor as they never lie or go back on their word. The only way to enter their territory is as a slave or by becoming a member of the Crow tribe. Liv, meanwhile, asks for permission to talk to Grieta, who hasn't said a word to anyone so far. Liv thinks that the prisoner may talk to her because she isn't a Crimson. David agrees with this but says she will have to share how to get into Bradock if she gets that intel. A few moments later, Liv visits Grieta and the two women have an intense conversation. Grietta explains that they killed all those people because they wanted the cube at all costs. She also doesn't think Liv can enter Bradock alone, but Liv gives her an interesting proposal. She promised to free Grietta if the latter promises to take her along and help her free her family. Once this meeting is over, Liv tells David she'll work on slowly getting Grietta's trust and that she'll give David all the information. In return, he promises to help her family when they finally attack Bradock. Meanwhile, Keano and the other survivors arrive at Bradock. Varvara orders her men to take Jakob to Ivar as a gift, and all the others are taken to the factories for manual labor. She warns that if anyone tries to steal anything, they shall be killed on the spot. Keano is given new clothes and taken to the quarters, where all slaves are kept together as if they were pigs. Later, everyone is put to work, and Keano quickly befriends another prisoner named Linus. If anyone dares to say anything or stop working for even a second, the guards beat them up without mercy. The only way to escape this place is through a gladiator-style fight where the winner is granted their freedom. To fight in such a match, the slave must be chosen by Varvara. Elsewhere, Liv goes to see Grietta again and tells her she's been accepted as a prison guard by the Crimsons. Unbeknownst to Grietta, Liv has hatched up a plan with David. They will allow Liv to escape with Grietta, and once she reveals the way to Bradock, Liv will alert the Crimsons with a flare. Sometime later, a group of Crimson soldiers return from their expedition with the pilot's body. They report that they couldn't find any wreckage as the plane has been taken by the Crows. Afraid that the Crows may have the cube, David urges Liv to get information from Grietta as soon as possible. The next time Liv visits Grietta, she brings her food and tries to ask a few questions. But Grietta sees right through the act and refuses to cooperate. Later, Liv discovers that there's a tunnel outside the building that takes her to Grietta's cell. This discovery gives her an idea, and she immediately goes to see David. Liv then announces that she wants to join the Crimsons, as long as she's allowed to see Grietta one more time. Moments later, David escorts Liv to the prison, but the latter quickly flips the script. Liv manages to steal David's gun and whacks him with it before tying him up in a nearby cell. Then, Liv frees Grietta using David's key and guides her at gunpoint to the tunnel she saw earlier. Following this, Liv guides Grietta through the tunnel, but as soon as they get out of it, she pushes Liv to the ground. Grietta then snatches the gun after a while, hands it back to Liv because as a true crow, she wants to keep her word. While the two women make their way through the forest, Liv says she would do anything to save her family. Grietta commends her loyalty and points out that Liv would make an excellent crow. Liv sees an opportunity and asks Grietta where she should go if she wants to join the Crows. Grietta, who now fully trusts Liv, finally gives her the details on what road leads to Bradock. To her utter horror, Liv suddenly takes out a flare and shoots it at the sky to alert the Crimsons of their location. It is revealed that all this has been part of her plan with David. The Crimson soldiers quickly arrive at the spot and capture Grietta and take the two women back to their base. Once they are safely back, David compliments Liv for her courage, and the two of them end up making love that night. Meanwhile, at the factory, Linus accidentally drops his tools during work and gets beaten up by the guard for it. Keano comes to his defense, but the guard beats him too and throws him to the floor in the process. This allows Keano to notice that some slaves are stealing equipment from the factory. That night, while everyone is sleeping, Keano pretends to be asleep and notices those same slaves giving the stolen equipment to a guard. The very next morning, Keano asks Linus to get him a meeting with Varvara. Hours later, Linus calls Keano to a private area, saying Varvara is waiting for him. Unfortunately for the youngster, this turns out to be a trap as Linus is also cooperating with the smugglers. The thieving slaves want to silence Keano, and so one of them throws him into the pool. Keano has no choice but to defend himself using a shard of glass he finds in the water. He manages to kill the slave right before the guards arrive to arrest them all. Soon afterwards, Keano is taken to see Varvara, and he uses the chance to tell her what he saw. However, a guard, who had also been working with the smugglers, tells a completely different story. Varvara believes her warrior over a slave and orders Keano to be killed as punishment. In the meantime, Moses takes Elja to see one of his ex-girlfriends named Amina, who is a mechanic by profession. Amina initially refuses to fix the cube but changes her tune when Moses promises her 10% of the profits. She then starts working on the cube, but despite doing all she can't seem to make it work. This is when Elja takes the cube and activates it by scanning his eyes. The cube starts floating and shows them a giant hologram of the Atlantean pilot in some weird area. Unfortunately, the cube shuts down before they can understand what they're seeing. Following this, Amina takes a new look and discovers that the cube's fusion module isn't repairable. The only person who could get them such a rare piece is a man named Braca, who runs the trading post in the southern regions. Moses doesn't want to go to Braca because he owes him money, and they'll be kicked out. This makes Elja furious, and he stomps out of the room. Moses follows him, and Elja shares that this is important to him because of his family. Amina decides to share a rare tablet from the old world, plus a bunch of other artifacts so that Moses can pay his debt. Eventually, the three of them agree to leave together and head to the old trading post. However, at that moment, a bunch of crows show up and Amina is forced to fight them alone so that Moses and Elja get a chance to escape. They run to the truck, but a crow jumps on them. A struggle ensues and Moses manages to push him off with his weapon before driving away. Back in Bradock, Keano is taken away to be executed, but the ceremony is suddenly interrupted by Varvara. She reveals that she checked the dead slave's body and found stolen equipment. She concludes that Keano was telling her the truth, and now the guard must die in his place. In a brutal display of dominance, Varvara makes the guard stab himself in the heart. Then, she sends Linus and the other thief to their deaths, while she orders Keano to be sent to her estate. After a while, Keano arrives at Varvara's luxurious home, where he meets a young man named Duyat, and the other slaves that live there. These are Varvara's favorite men, and they're kept here to keep her company, and not to fight in an arena like Keano wanted. When it's time for dinner, Keano puts on the new uniform but refuses to wear makeup like the other men in the villa. He also refuses to eat or make conversation, which frustrates and excites Varvara at the same time. She throws Keano's food to the floor and makes another slave eat it like a dog. Then she sends everyone away except for Keano, which only makes Duyat jealous. Keano is taken to Varvara's room where she rips his clothes off by force. Then Varvara pushes him to the bed to take advantage of him while keeping a blade against his body. The next morning, a jealous Duyat sarcastically congratulates Keano for getting Varvara's attention. However, Keano isn't flattered and points out they're still slaves with a slightly different job. The next day, Varvara takes her slaves to a special party that Ivar is throwing with his inner circle. At the party, the leader of the crows congratulates Varvara for recovering the plane, but reminds her the cube is more important. As he walks away, Keano is shocked to see his father, Jakob, is one of Ivar's slaves. Varvara tells Keano that she likes him, and that night, she takes him to see a fight. The battle between the slaves is brutal, and when the winner is decided, she gets her freedom by becoming a crow and choosing a new name. After the fight, they return to the estate, and Varvara asks Keano about Jakob. Keano, however, pretends he was just his leader and nothing else. Then Varvara asks him to tell her sad stories of her childhood because they excite her. This time, Keano pretends he wants to spend the night with her to start gaining her trust. Meanwhile, Liv is given a crimson uniform and a weapon of choice and formally inducted into the tribe. She then joins David to hear about the plan, which David hasn't told the higher-ups about. When the team is ready to go, they suddenly find the exits blocked by soldiers from the capital, and Cameron, the leader of the Crimsons. Cameron is against warmongering, so he considers David a traitor for going against Crimson principles. David immediately says everyone here is under his orders, and only he should get arrested. After driving for a while, Elja and Moses stop to rest and meet with a family that's escaping from the east. Just like the pilot said, there's a threat called black swarms coming to Europa. Everyone that sees it dies. But the family can't offer more details because their English isn't very good. Sometime later, they make it to the trading post, and the guards aren't happy to see Moses. However, they quickly allow him to come in when they learn he's come to pay. Elja and Moses are taken to see Braca, who has an office with a huge collection of technology from the old world. Moses shows the rare tablet Amina gave him, pointing out it's much more expensive than what he owes, and asks for a module in return. Braca is suspicious of such a request and makes his guard grab Elja. Unfortunately for the two visitors, the guard searches Elja's bag and finds the cube. Braca decides to keep it and kicks Moses and Elja out. Meanwhile, Liv continues to work as a prison guard and brings food to David, who explains Cameron must be stopped. Their leader wants to negotiate a truce with the crows, but David thinks they're butchers and will only take control of the other tribes. He asks Liv to kill Cameron in order to save her family, and in return he promises that his men will help her. Moments after the visit, Liv has a secret meeting with Sam, who brings her a special poison to put in Cameron's drink. The morning after the party, Keano overhears Varvara sending reinforcements to find the cube. He is determined to save his brother, and to do so, he must first gain his own freedom. Keano then asks Varvara what it takes to be in the gladiator-style match, but the question infuriates her. She thinks that Keano is trying to run away from her, and so she decides to teach him a lesson. She takes Keano to her training room and proceeds to easily defeat him in battle. Keano claims he wants freedom, but he's afraid to die, and Varvara points out a real crow would never be afraid to die. Later that night, Varvara announces she'll be dining with Ivar, and takes Keano in her personal car. They soon reach Ivar's place, but just as they enter, he immediately scolds Varvara because the plane didn't have anything valuable. While they chat, Keano notices his dad walking around and he hatches up a plan. He pretends he needs to use the bathroom so that he can meet his old man in secret. The plan works and the father-son duo reunite with a hug. Keano explains he's trying to get a fight for freedom, but Jakob asks him not to do anything reckless. On their way back to the room, Keano discovers that Duyat had seen everything and threatens to oust his secret. Before they leave, Ivar tells Varvara that he's chosen a different lord to become his 7th member of the inner circle. Late that night, an enraged Varvara calls Duyat to her room so that Keano can learn a lesson. Several hours pass by and eventually Keano is called to Varvara's room. The youngster quietly does what he is asked, but to his utter horror, he sees Duyat's lifeless body on the bed. Varvara announces that Keano has to die too, and gives him a choice. He can do it himself, or she'll massacre him as she did with Duyat. Keano chooses the first option and grabs a blade from nearby, but just as he is about to stab his own heart, Varvara stops him. She's impressed by the fact he's finally not scared of dying anymore, and decides he's earned his freedom fight. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.